Hey, how's it
What's
going,
going
man?
on?
Um,
Quarantine and wolfing.
I know. Look at this. It's got a
Yeah,
hat
man, I
for a
ain't taking
reason,
it
man.
off.
Absolutely, man. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed. I can't complain, with everything going on in the world, just, keeping my head level.
Absolutely, man. And hey, I wanted to say first off, happy belated Father's Day to you.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, what being a dad has kind of brought to your music and what that perspective has brought to your life.
Being a dad is everything. It feels better than winning a Grammy. It feels better than, anything music has ever done for me. But it makes me want to go harder in music. So it's just making me want to like have more to provide. So doing more music, making more meaningful music. So like at any point if I go, there's always my legacy in the music where she could kind of get the gist of the kind of person I am. Not just to her, but to other people and how, people projected me to be through the music.
Absolutely, and that's a really big thing, and it kind of talks about the message you want to leave behind, and it really brings me into what I wanted to talk about a lot with you, which was this latest project, Home. Not only just because of the powerful message, the powerful imagery that you had with it, but the idea of making it home, being something that I think it doesn't get talked about enough with this movement, and that thought process. And I'm not going to be the one that talks about it because that's not my conversation to have. But I do want to know, from your side of things, what this song meant and how writing in this type of with everything that's going on, just not only COVID, but the revolution, everything, how writing has changed for you.
I mean, first and foremost, we're fighting two pandemics right now. You got a health pandemic that, targets low income people who can't provide and get the proper health care they need. But we're fighting a pandemic of color because you're in a world where people don't want to see you make it home. They don't want to see you, survive and thrive. Literally because of the color of your skin. You could have the beautifulest, most content heart in the world, but just because, people are raised a certain way, they don't even appreciate your skin color. And they judge you based on that. And I believe the music's about the times. Like we're in trying times right now. So it'd be foolish of me to use this message and platform to talk about anything else besides the times. If you look at like some of the greatest artists of all time, they always talked about the times. The music that lasts is music that defined the times. And I think I have a responsibility as an artist to speak on things that are true to my people, true to my time, true to how the world is being affected. And music is global. Music can bring people together. Music can bridge things that no other language can be bring together. So I think using that vehicle to try to connect people and build people up instead of crucifying them for things they don't know or ignorance is the way to go.
Absolutely. I think that, I mean, you hit on a lot of points there, and I think it's really, you look back at certain artists from any genre really, and you can traverse, you can not only tell like this is a great song, but you can look back at it and go, I know exactly what was going on in these
Hmm.
times and what they're thinking. And I think, you go back to Rage Against the Machine in the 90s, you go
Yep.
back to, I mean, there was plenty of hip hop in the 90s coming out too, but in the 90s I was a kid. I grew up on metal music, so that's
Okay.
what always comes to my head. But the 70s with there's and the 60s even with the hippie music that you can get
Hmm.
the feeling and the
You can get the
sense of.
vibe of the times.
Right.
Even in the 80s and 90s, you had Public Enemy. You had rappers who had messages. They were wearing college sweaters to encourage you to go to school and to strive for more. When you watched black television back in the day, it told our stories. It told our plights. Um, there's so many things systemically done for people to feel like their plight isn't visible and seen. And people grow up thinking they're invisible, but everything is documented, even if it's not documented, because people are living proof of the times we're in. And the fact that it's 2020 and people can still be hung in parks, it lets
Right.
you know the times we're in. It lets you know how veiled things are. It lets you know the kind of society we're in. But in creating the content, you create dialogue. And that's my whole thing. Home was to create dialogue. Home was to talk about a problem that is in my community where if I go outside and I get stopped by a cop, there's no guarantee I'm making it home. One traffic light could change if I make it home or if I'm, dead or in jail. One traffic light can change if I make it to see my daughter become a teenager and a young adult, or if I, go and she has to be a statistic of somebody who grows up without a father. And home is about that. It's a real thing for us. Like, we don't know if we're coming back. We take it for granted that we make it in and get home every day, but there's a good chance there's plenty of people not making it home in this time. And I just wanted to touch on that. Music is about what we're going through, and I don't want to be absent when a voice is needed, especially when a voice is needed during a climate like this, when there's so much veiled racism in the White House. There's so much unveiled racism in the White House. There's so
Right.
much unveiled racism on TV and the news, the way you receive that. I'd be foolish to not, offer a fresh perspective, and not like I speak for all Black people, but to offer my perspective on how I see things.
And I think the other important thing to me to music is that you're getting it directly from a source. You're not going to, just tell me what CNN manipulated the news to be, what Fox manipulated the news to be. You're talking to people that are living it and their experience with it, and I think that is the most important thing to me. I mean, you can watch Facebook all day, you can do this, but until you're actually talking with people about these things, I think it really changes the entire perspective on it.
I tell people, live in your truth. Your truth don't mean it's everybody else's truth. Your truth is your truth. And we have to kind of acknowledge that people have their own versions of the truth. We need to have dialogues. We need to keep conversation open and allow people to always learn. Like, I have plenty of white friends, and I try to educate. And I want them to educate me on how they see us, so that there's dialogue that opens up why these things are consistently happen, and letting them know like why things are pitted the way they are. Because you're taught hate. You're taught how to not like somebody. When you go to the park for the first time and the parent pulls the kid away and says, "Don't play with that kid," they're getting taught. Kids just naturally want to play. You grow up
Right.
and you grow up and you naturally just want to connect. It's a human, like, natural human instinct to just connect and build with people. So you're taught these other behaviors. And we have to do a lot of reteaching and unlearning, and learn how to, pretty much grow together and reconnect and recalibrate ourselves to, all unite. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I want to talk too because I mean you talk about being taught these things, and the chorus of home really drives home. I think you being taught the way that you were taught, and having parents and them driving lessons home. How important was it to get those messages from your parents, but just look for your life and for your music.
So I was very strategic. I wanted to give it two parents, but most Black homes don't have two parents. um, I wanted to make it like a village. Your mother could be somebody in the village. It could be any woman you know. Your father could be any man you know, father figure. But you get these messages of like Black men having to be aggressive and strong all the time, not being vulnerable. So Papa had a smoking gun. Papa was like, "Yo, by any means, you make sure you do what you got to do." He always told me to fight. He always told me to be strong. He always told me to be, stand my ground. But Mama was teaching me to be a nurturer and teaching me that you got to make it home. You might have to run. You might have to, wipe some tears. You might have to go through some things. And she had the empathy that the world doesn't have for you. So it was very symbolic. There's a lot of empathy lacking in this world, and you're supposed to get it at home. So
Yeah.
you're supposed to get it at home. So I wanted to drive those points home, like, deliberately. You should be able to, like, be in the world and be accepted in the world the same way you're accepted in your house. And
Right.
some people get that privilege. They get to go and be their truest them. And some people have to kind of just roll with the punches and hope it work out.
Yeah, and I think it is important to talk about both sides of it, and especially looking at it symbolically. I didn't even take it that far. I was just thinking this was about your parents in particular, but you're right. There's feminine energy, there's masculine energies, and all of these things, and people that if you're not able to experience the whole feel the energy, it's sometimes it doesn't have to be a mom, it could be a sister, it could be it could be your
Hmm.
brothers, anybody looking out for you, but the reality is that the more and I think it expands past that and just the masculine and feminine, but the more cultural things, the more people the more connections you make, I think really influences a person to really understand more
Hmm.
things in life.
I urge people to be diverse and to challenge their thoughts of people. Like, I don't believe all cops are bad. I don't believe all white people believe that, in certain things. I test the waters, have dialogue, have conversation, post stuff, get people, to start dialogue. and then ask people. Don't get mad at them. Be like, why do you feel this way? What drove you to this point? What is shaped your thinking? And when you start having those kind of conversations, then you can kind of see why somebody thinks the way they do. Maybe you can offer some pieces of, your perspective. It's all that. And I think people are so ready to like write you off or cancel you, cancel culture, or tell you, like that's wrong. And we listen to reply instead of listening to understand and to, teach out and use those moments as ways to connect. Um, that's it, bro.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's two sides of it. I think what you said is really true, and I think you also have to look at it from a side of if you're going to, I mean, if you're going to debate somebody, you have to know what they're about, because otherwise you guys are just saying your own thoughts back and forth. But if you know what they're trying to talk about, you can offer counterpoints to those type of things. So I think
There's seek education at all. Like I tell people, like there's so much black. To be real, there's so much ways to understand black culture. You have our movies, you have our music, you have, conversations with black people who are around you steadily. And even if you're in a community that's predominantly not black, like the neighboring community is probably black. You probably cross black people in the supermarket. You probably have interactions where they're right there. And there's always a chance. Like I can start up a conversation anywhere, any place, anytime, because
right,
I come with that warm energy. We got to kind of start embracing each other with that warm energy because it's the only way to get through. It's the only way you're going to break through those walls and break down those prejudices you don't know you have, or break down those cultural biases you don't know you have. Like it's uncomfortable when I see a woman clutch her purse and I know that I'm probably going to end up giving her directions because she looks lost and 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 she's looking all scared and I'm like, can I help you? It's just our mindsets are totally different. And trying to get people to understand that you never know who's going to be the person to save you or help you or hurt you. It's so unknown, and you only know until you have that encounter.
absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, the last thing I want to get into before we jump into like the actual quarantine questions
Mhm.
is I want to talk a little bit about your style, because I mean, not only are you dressed usually, I mean, very classy. It's a very classic look. I don't want to, not even classy. It's just a classic type of look. Um, but your music reflects that as well. I mean, there's definitely a heavily jazz influenced style to yours. And I find a lot of times with artists, and I don't know if it's all the artists I enjoy, but most of the artists I enjoy, they tend to have a really diverse musical background coming up. So is that something that kind of holds true with you? Did you have a lot of different musics you listened to growing up, or was it really kind of a lot of one or two genres?
So I'll tackle it two ways. When it came to style for me, like dressing and stuff, for me, I just wanted people to have a different view of a rapper. Um, I'm like, yo, a school teacher could look any way, a cop could look any way, a lawyer could look any way. Like there's so many nuanced and diverse ways we can appear to you. So if I'm in a suit and you like, he looks smooth, he look cool, but then I start rapping, you're like, oh snap, yeah, I didn't expect that, bro. Like it lets you see that there's so many ways that it can come at you. So I wanted to let young black boys, young white boys, anybody who's watching know that you could be from anywhere, look like anything, and still be able to just do your thing and rap. So I did it on purpose. It was very intentional. Plus, I like suits.
Right.
I like suits. I like getting fly. For me, the coolest thing is you put on your fresh shoes and you step out and they're like, woo, looking like a number two pencil. So for me, it's just the pride of looking good. And I'm like, I could look good and rap at the same time, so I'm gonna do that. And then on the side of like the music I listen to, I grew up in a heavily like Motown household, very like Motown, Temptations, Aretha Franklin. I grew up very soulful, but
Sure.
I reached out, and learned a little bit about jazz. I went to school trying to learn a little classical. I listened to a lot of old school rap, like a lot of Big Daddy Kane, a lot of Slick Rick, a lot of the classic rappers. And those are the dudes that inspired me the most, Defs, the LL Cool J's. So I got really inspired
Sure.
by a lot of classic rappers. And then like Black Thought is my favorite rapper. So seeing Black Thought on the Fallon show, always wearing a suit, rapping, and doing this thing, that was huge for me. Fontigolo, those were the dudes who really set the tone for me. So between Motown, hip hop, a little jazz, listening to like disco and funk. My grandma used to sing house music. I used to write house music for a label back in the day. So
Okay.
yeah, I used to write house music. I used to write R&B records for Sony at one point. But
That's
what
that's
yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy, man. I was like 19 at the time. But what
Yeah.
happens what happens is like music is beautiful because even if you don't understand it, even if it's from some other different, genre or culture, like there's always something you can commonly grab to and pull and kind of relate to. It can if it's African music, you might love the way the drums knock. If it's house music, you might like the way the beat rock and like there's that the emptiness that lets you kind of be free and expressive. R&B has stories. Country music has stories. Like there's so much that you can take from music, even if it's not per se your genre of music, and kind of implement that. So I'm just a fan of music, and I'm a fan of connecting. And music's to me the number one way to connect.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about certain things because that's, growing up, like I said, I'm listening to mostly metal, some classic rock, but, the first hip hop I really ever listened to was Tech Nine.
Tech Nine is fire.
Yeah, and it really only made sense to me because I was going from metal into a guy that would like his voice kind of sounded just like the double kick in metal. So just it always made sense to me to transition that way and to hear everything. And then I still think about it today with a lot
Are you
of the
a Doom
music.
fan? MF Doom?
MF Doom?
Yeah.
I do. I'll tell you, I respect Doom. He's got an incredible catalog, but I've never been able to get into it's the same reason I don't really like Earl Sweatshirt.
Okay.
It's just that flow is just a little bit kind of, it doesn't hit my ears. Right. And coming from somebody that's got some like I love Danny Brown, and I know Danny Brown is a person that's like, you either love him or you really just can't listen to that voice.
I love Danny Brown. Danny Brown's fire.
Absolutely. So and I always grew up, and the one thing that I always loved from music was just voices. Like, so I've always, Young Thug is somebody that I enjoy. Chance the Rapper, Danny Brown. Like, when you've got a unique voice
like
to me.
Eclectic voices.
Right. And so that was one thing that when I started hearing your music, your ability to sing in these songs brought something that I felt was a little bit different because it wasn't an auto-tune sing-songy type of thing. It wasn't like an R&B sing-song. It was kind of that older style jazz, that classical sing-song put into a hip-hop verse.
It was that gospel, baby.
Right. And it's something that I don't hear a ton in music. So when I heard you, I just went, and it's similar. I mean, Young Thug isn't like, now that's not like, there's plenty of people that sound kind of like Young. But because I heard him first, that's why I always just go, yeah, that's the guy. I like that voice. And so it was like that with you. That's not something that I hear very often. So when I heard it in yours, I was like, that's unique. Like that's something I really want to listen to.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. So let's jump into the quarantine questions here.
Awesome.
So which artist has been heavily on your playlist during quarantine?
Right now, I'm listening to Sky Zoo. He just dropped the album for fathers. It's called Milestones, named after his son, named after the milestones he's jumped over trying to be a dad and becoming a dad and seeing his dad. So that's my brother right there. So this is a perfect time to plug my man Sky Zoo. Great album. It's short and sweet.
Absolutely. He's incredible. He was here last year with LZ and 60 East out of California.
They was on tour.
Yep. Yeah. And he's great too. At 60, shout out to 60 East. He's fantastic too.
Fire.
So being in quarantine, this is one of my favorite questions to ask because I'm kind of a weirdo. And I grew up the last like 5 years of my life, anyways. I for the most part lived alone. I'm kind of more of a loner person. I'll go to shows and stuff, but like when I come home, that's how I decompress. But in quarantine, you have to be alone with yourself a lot more. And one thing I've noticed over the years is I do a lot of weird things when I'm like cooped up for a long time. And my biggest thing is like when I'm singing, when I'm rapping or doing whatever, I make a lot of weird faces and I'll catch them sometimes and just be like, that's odd. So what's one thing that you've like caught yourself doing during quarantine that you thought like, man, I need to readjust this?
I think for me, I'm home with my daughter now, so I'm watching a lot of Elmo, and I never thought that I watch 8 hours of Sesame Street a day. Like she doesn't watch that much. She only gets like 30 minutes of screen time. But when she leaves the room or whatever, Elmo's still on in the background, and I catch myself and, I catch myself like excited about Sesame Street and talking about what up Hoops and look down in the feathers, like catch myself watching a lot of Sesame Street. So when this is over, maybe I go back to normal life. But right now, we rocking out with Big Bird and the gang.
No, I feel that a lot. I go, my nieces, you know, they're huge into Tinkerbell.
Okay.
Tinkerbell's a big one, and My Little Pony, and like you're right, they just leave the room, and then
Yo,
you're
you get
popping.
suckered in, bro. You like,
Right, you can't like turn it off because you know they're gonna come back in a little bit. But you like sit there listening, even if you're scrolling on your phone or whatever. It's starting to like you're starting to hear storylines and all this other stuff. It's funny you say that. um, so the third question I have for you is, you know, diets are a big thing, especially early on in the year. You know, everybody's trying to get their like summer body in shape. But quarantine kind of just cut that out for everybody. So what's one thing that you've either overeaten during quarantine or that you can't get enough of?
first of all, ain't no diets over here, man. You
Yeah.
know, genetics is strong, but I'm eating a lot of coffee cakes, man. Like the little Debbie coffee cakes. I
Yep.
keep finding myself eating a whole bunch of coffee cakes and drinking a whole bunch of apple juice. Um, I never really eat that stuff. Like I'm usually very active. I'm always, being really creative. So I don't eat as much. I forget to eat half the time. So I've been home, so I've been eating a ton, which is good. Hopefully I put on some weight. I got a little wiry frame.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this newfound possible weight. So we gonna see.
Yeah.
But a lot of coffee cakes and apple juice, man.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I've tried the other way. I got extra, so if you need a couple pounds, like you can take
Yo,
them.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about everything that's going on in 2020, and it's been a lot. It seems like every month there's a new thing coming at you.
It tops the last month.
Right, right. And so, what's one thing that you found that you're able to do to kind of decompress, de-stress, and kind of recharge?
For me, it's having conversations. So this is what I do. Like I'm really just trying to connect with people and understand people, and challenge people's thought processes. It's a fun little puzzle for me. So for me, it's like get out there and actually do the work. The only way to decompress and to really feel comfortable or feel safe is to actually be a part of change. And I can't really sit back and enjoy rapping right now. I can't really enjoy being a dad because there's so much going on in the world. And I feel like, this stuff is so like, it's so thick. So
Right.
I'm really just trying to actually like incite change. I've been looking at ways to, legally like look into legislative ways of, affecting laws, reading up on stuff, arming myself with the knowledge to help other people learn how they can be, safe out here. So I'm just using the time to really, work on becoming a better person so I can learn out and teach out. And that's what's going to keep me like, decompressed and stress free when I know that we're in a better place. Right now, the times is real thick. So I can't even sit back and be comfortable and lie to you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that is a really important thing. It's part of the reason why I do this. As since I was younger, I always liked, not only did I always love music, but I always wanted to buy like the tour DVD. I wanted to buy like the interviews. I wanted to like that's what I was always interested in knowing more about people and knowing what was behind the music, what was behind all these processes. So I'm the same way with you. Like
Yeah,
when I
we're
can
very
sit down and
similar.
talk to somebody, like that's huge for me because and like I said, that's part of that growth that I see is it's one thing to go and read about something online, but the more you're talking with people, the less there is for somebody else to put their spin on what was said or what was
Uh-huh.
read. So I definitely agree with you there. The last question I have for you here is what is currently missing that you can't wait to come back into society, aside from live music? Because that seems to be the one thing everybody's really kind of missing. But
Bro, I'm trying to get back to the restaurant gang, man. So I'm big on food. Like anybody who know me know I talk about this avocado toast that's in
yeah,
Midtown. Like for me, I can't wait to get back to my avocado toast, get back to sitting outside, having a little drink and eat my food and appreciate and being across the street from the park. Like for me it's about getting out, being lively, being able to eat at all these restaurants. I'm a big foodie. So for me, like we talking, we go get some food, we go play some ball. Like
yeah,
I live in the moment, like and I miss that right now. Um, all the parks are still chained up where I live. Um, Being able to have that tangible, connection with people is really important. I'm like the most, extrovert you can find. So for me, staying like this right now is like torture. It's like telling somebody who talks a lot, go in the corner and don't talk for 10 minutes. That 10 minutes feel like 10 years. So well, you can only imagine the type of time I'm on right now. And you see how sharp I be looking. The fact that I'm looking scruffy and I ain't get a haircut is like it's like digging at me on the low. I almost came on here with a bag on my face, like, yo, I ain't handsome enough. But I'm missing those kind of things. I'm missing that human connection. I'm missing, getting back to like some sense of normal. And once I get back into society, I'm not taking it for granted. I'm cherishing the days. I might kiss the ground the first day we get to like, get out there.
Yeah, no, I feel that, and I'm definitely the same way with food. Like that's fortunately here in Minnesota, we've been opening some stuff up, and restaurants even are able to open up to half capacity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. Like I saw there was a food truck outside of my apartment for the first time since last summer, and I thought, man, like I'm ready. I'm ready for food trucks. I'm ready for food. Like that's so big to me too. I'm such a
Yo,
big
I'm ready
food
for a
person.
real hug, yo. I ain't
Yeah.
have a hug since March. So I'm ready for a
Yep.
real hug. I'm ready for some pounds. I'm ready to give somebody a good dap. Like, what's good, bro? Bring it in. Because, we ain't have a good five since like March 12th.
Right. Right.
on my
Yeah.
on my end, I ain't have a good five since March 12th. So I'm looking forward to that. And once we get back into the swing of things, I just hope that people actually are connecting and using the tools we learned. Like all of us are professional Zoomers at this point, and a lot of us know how to use Keynote and work from home. So
Right.
hopefully we translate these skills into like skills that help us grow and really connect on more interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Well, hey, I want to give the last little bit here to you to kind of promote yourself. Let us know what you got coming up. Any music, any merch, anything really.
I mean, we got tons of stuff coming up. Wait till the world open up. I'm getting back to the shows. We were doing a lot of shows before this all happened, so getting back to the shows. I got some exclusive merchandise coming for a lot of my day one fans. I got jerseys coming. I got exclusive Ace Clark pins. I got bow ties coming. It's a lot of merch coming. And it's gonna be really like connected to the people who really been like a part of the journey, the people that's ready to really join this journey. Um, I'm not gonna really plug me. I'm Ace Clark. But I do want to use this platform and this time to talk about, having honest conversations with the people around you about the things that are going on in the world, even if you don't agree. Um, my message to people that aren't, black, when you're trying to educate the people who are a little ignorant to the stuff going on, don't crucify them. Don't record it. Don't post that on TikTok. Don't post that on, on Instagram Live. Don't embarrass people. Educate them, teach them, show them, better ways to, move forward. But this isn't a time to break people apart and tear them down. It's a time to really educate, grow people up, and really try to bring out the best in people. We all can be retaught things. We all can relearn things. So it's a time to really re-educate, reteach people. Stop with the crucifying on social media. It doesn't do anything positive to tear somebody down for not knowing better on social media. And please go out and vote. Like I voted yesterday. Please go out and vote. Your vote counts. Make the changes that you can make by doing the slow stuff like voting, but also get out and have these active conversations. Talk to the people in your communities. Ask questions. Really, start dialogue. That's all we got to do in these times, and things will get better.
Absolutely, man. Hey, I want to really appreciate you for coming on the set tonight, for talking about everything. Like you said, I mean, sometimes these aren't easy conversations to have, and it's great to be able to talk with somebody and to be able to, after this, have this recording, because I think this is one of the most important ones we've had so far, and talking with just kind of everything. I mean, the thing is, you can have these conversations, but bringing these conversations into everyday life too. I mean, we covered everything. I mean, not everything, but we covered a lot of things from, a lot of different angles. And I think that's part of it too, is normalizing the idea that you can have this conversation without it having to be, this most dark, serious conversation. You can have it in the middle of something, or you can bring it up to talk about it with people, kind of whenever.
You just share who you are. Like if you are who you are, and if people know who they're talking to at the end of the day, it shouldn't be a hard conversation because you'll touch on things that are uncomfortable. But if I know you for you, then I'm just having the conversation, and I know that based on the merit of who I am, that I got nothing to worry about. I know our friendship's still gonna be intact. And if it's not, then there's some bigger issues there. And that has nothing to do with me. I'm just trying to have the conversation that I think are needed to push people forward and to get people to think on a deeper level. And anybody who can't respect that, maybe we don't need to be friends.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, thanks again. We're going to take off for the night here, but I do appreciate you jumping on. Everybody check out Ace Clark's music. Check out Home. And we will talk to you soon. Hopefully we'll see you around Minnesota for a show someday
You
soon.
already know, man. Prince was my idol, so I always dreamed of coming to Minnesota and waiting to like go to his house when he do the Jehovah's Witness visits, and he pop up, and I'm like, "What's good, Prince?"
Yeah,
It was one of my dreams, but he ain't here. But that was a dream. So you never know. I might come to Minnesota, man.
yeah.
Love,
Come there and pop up on his house.
yo, for real, man. Was living a large life, but I catch
Yeah,
up with you. Peace.
yeah. See you, man.